you got to go pick up some yoga classes or whatever it is, but you have to start being in orbit with more like-minded people that are like you. The reason why I told you to keep this shit a secret at the beginning is because people will feed off that shit and not in a healthy way sometimes. But when you surround yourself and you're immersed with people that have the same mind as you and they want to make themselves better, then you could talk about that shit all day long, because that's something that everybody is filling each other's cups from. But there are times you could be as fucking happy as you want to be, and there's going to be people around there that just want to, no matter what, they're going to shit on that, right? So for you, now we're talking about, hey, you were so excited and all these things are going and you're crushing everything that's in a linear format. Now I'm like, take those constructs away that society says is whatever. And now think about yourself as a brand new woman. Like, who's Jen 2.0 and what would make you happy? Right. I asked you, like,
you did.
Are you happy with yourself as a woman? And you did not answer. I said, okay, well, do you know what makes you happy? And
I didn't.
And that journey is where the pain comes from now. And a lot of people are going to be like, I don't got time for that shit. I'm like, it ain't going anywhere. And if you don't handle that shit, that gets passed down to the next generation. Right. So like, you're like, well, how do I begin to do that? And I go, well, what did I tell you? I was like, well, let's see how well you pay attention now. Right. So
now it's a pop quiz.
Well, no, you asked me like, where do I start? I want to find out the things that make me happy. What are some of the things I mentioned that you could try to do?
Well, I think I agreed on, because I told you, like, I actually want to start shooting again. Like, I want to get a gun. Like, this may not be the part that gets part of the
Texas.
podcast.
You could talk
right?
all day long in Texas.
But I'm like, I do like, that was something that I thought, was fun, right? Like, and now I may be like backtracking on this, but I'm like, in my head, I was thinking like, I can be a better mom, right? I can protect my, kids better. I can do, this, but I was like, but maybe it's an outlet for me, right? Like to go to the range. Wouldn't it be my first time shooting? I used to, shoot with
that would make you happy, then you're going to be putting yourself in an environment with other people that makes them happy. Yep. And then you get to feed off that environment, product of your environment. You want to be immersed around people like you to help feed each other, right? So I also said,
cooking. You told me I would like cooking. You did.
That's bullshit, because I don't think I want you to cook, but this is what I would tell you.
You can go back to the compound and cook you all dinner.
I said, what are the things that you don't like to do? And you're like, I don't like to cook. I'm like, cool, maybe start with that.
Yeah.
Start doing the shit you don't like to do until it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, you're like, oh, you're such a candy ass. You're trying to climb over those little stones. And I was like, again,
oh my God, that was so bad.
That's nothing. I was like, this is nothing, right? But the thing is like all those things, those are the things you need to go work on, right? Things that you don't like, make them something that you like. Like, I think a lot of people, we were talking about this with someone that doesn't like Brussels sprouts, right? Yeah. And I was like, since when? They're like, since I was 4. And I was like, you've changed your mind a lot since then. Maybe you should give them another shot.
Girls had cooties when you were 4, right? Like
exactly. But these constructs that we put just in our mind, we're like, oh, I hate that. Why do you hate that? I don't know. I'm just always there. I don't remember. But people have to break that shit, that conscience breaking of those cycles. So I was like, start with the things that you don't like. When you see things in people that annoy the fuck out of you, ask yourself, is that you?
Yeah.
Or is that something that you're mirroring and you can't stand that? Cool. Then go fix it. If it's one of your kids, you could fix it in you and you can teach them how to fix it in them. But like, look for the things that you don't like to do, because that will help you discover. There's a roadmap to helping you discover what makes you happy. And if you know what makes you happy, then I could ask you the question, are you happy as a woman? And you'd be like, damn straight. Because you know what you,
right? Like
it's a journey.
We'll get there. I think we even discussed about the whole heights thing, like jumping out of the helicopter. If I end up going to PTC, right? Like I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And like, but it's gonna be lower. Like we gotta work up to these other things. Like, and you all may have to push me out of the helicopter.
We'll tell you that, but just to get you on the helicopter. And then I'll just tell them to go up as high as we can legally. No,
then push.
I won't do that. You definitely need a push, though, right?
I do need. I need a push,
and you need to be around people that will push you, and then people that you can push back.
Yeah, and I think that's probably also what like really caught my attention with you and Carly. At DCAC was. I knew you guys were going to push me and challenge me. And I knew that I was going to be able to push back when I wanted to, but then probably get pushed off, right? Like, you're going to go do it anyway. Like, hear me out.
Yeah, I think that someone like Carly's not doing it to try to pick up followers. No. She just creates an orbit around herself. Amazing. So we'll pause on Carly because I've not done a podcast with her. She's done a podcast with the people on my team before. Yeah. But she was at the time, the president and COO of the Talent War Group.
Yeah.
And if people don't know who the Talent War Group is, probably one of the most famous Navy SEALs is a guy named Mike Sorelli. And he is the host of a men's journal or men's fitness podcast called The Everyday Warrior. He's that dude. He's like, when you write a comic book about what a superhero is, that's that dude, right? Yeah. He was a Marine and he was a sniper and he was his tip of the spear. And then he became a Navy SEAL and then he became one of those special Navy SEAls. So he's what you want to aspire to in Sparta, right? She was his right hand for years. So she's not intimidated by anybody or anybody else, right? Like, and she's been around powerful people her whole life, and she's former military, and she's been trained on things. And what she's learned on her own journey, and she's way far advanced, she's much younger than me and way further along in her journey, is how important it is to get yourself to 100%, because if you're not 100%, then you're not helping anybody, right? If you can't give yourself 100%, you're not going to give your partner, your business, or anything else 100%. And if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead anybody else, right? So I met her after that podcast that she did with our group, and for 6 months, she had been unofficially like my therapist, you could say, where I would call her and dump on her on a Friday, just between peers and colleagues. And their company is very invested in helping veterans. My company is very invested in helping veterans. And I would just ask her questions. Then one day I just had the epiphany and I was like, you should really consider coming over here. I know we're nerds, right? But I think you would have more fun, because she's kind of nerdy, right? Yeah. And
we all are.
Right. Right. But I mean, this industry attracts nerds and people, whether they like it or not. If you like this industry, you're a nerd, right? Yeah. And I said, but I don't need a former Navy SEAL that wants to shoot me, because you're, important to him too. Right.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is she's come over and she's had a huge impact on our team already, just in the way that, what did you guys do last night?
We walked 10 miles.
Who's we?
It was Carly, Kendra, Salmi, and myself. And I don't think we started until like 7, right? And like,
because you had the best meal you've ever had.
Because we did, because someone's really good in the kitchen.
That's right.
So I'm just gonna make sure you pack some of those meals up.
Nice, I got you.
Cook. But
you guys went for like a 3-hour walk at 7 at night.
Yeah, and like Carly kept telling me, like, just make sure you have comfortable shoes, and I'm like, I got this time, right?
That's bullshit.
Totally did have it this time, but like. I was like, why does she keep thinking that? And then it kind of reminded me, like, oh yeah, I did not have comfortable walking shoes.
There was no chance that you enjoyed that walk, but you.
No, I actually did. So like,
not the one you did last night, the first one.
Oh no, the first one I totally.
We just knew that you were getting shredded.
Yeah, like physically, I did not enjoy that one. Like.
But last night, were you good?
Last night we were good, right? Like, I really had not thought of like 10 miles. Like when I was out west, like this summer, we hiked and stuff like that. Cause Carly's like, when was the last time you did 10 miles? And I was like, I don't know. Like we hiked this summer out west, Now I'm starting to think like maybe we didn't do 10 miles out west because it just kept going on and on and on. But like,
and she has a stride. Like
she does.
She had a long
She's
stride.
Like twice my height, right? Yeah. Like for each stride, I'm taking like three steps, right?
Yeah.
And actually, like I kind of compared it this morning. Like, so I had my watch on last night, and it was like, I think it was like 14 or 15-minute miles, right? Like,
how many steps did you take? Is what you should count against hers.
Oh, I should totally check that out. But then, like today, I went on my walk this morning because I was like, the only way I'm going to be loose is like if I do my 30-30 here. So went out and walked. And like my regular like walking is like a 17, like 17-minute mile, And here she is.
She's pushing 2 minutes. She carved 2 minutes off your walk.
She totally did.
And she slowed 2 minutes off hers to hang with you. Yeah. Sucks.
So it was amazing. Like, you have got a great team, right? Like, I am very inspired, and I really appreciate, the time I do spend, with your team, both men and women on your team. Like, I feel like I may call some of your other guys, like, randomly, like, hey, what are you doing this weekend?
They're all
like
the same.
They are, like, they're wonderful. And that's inspiring. That's hard to get in a company where you have that many awesome people.
Well, I'll tell you why we did it is I hit a plateau myself. I think we all do, right? I mean, like, Jesse's story is way better than mine, which is why we share Jesse's story, because he truly inspires with, first of all, he's just an infectious personality to be around. He's incredibly capable of what he does, but he's old school. You know what I'm saying? So like, he's a guy that just needs to get hit with a bigger stick sometimes type of guy. But he's all of us. That's why I think he's so endearing. Everyone can relate to that. It's some capacity. Look at you with your shoe story. And, but it started with me realizing that I was not able to influence my team in the way that I wanted to anymore. And I didn't understand why. I was obviously going through a lot of circumstances in my own personal life, that, I was going through life-changing events at home. And it's impossible to think that those types of situations won't have an impact on everything else. And then you have to, one day, you realize a limitation in what you have. And that's why I asked you what your purpose was. Like, what was the change? And you said you were inspired. And I was like, well, normally people don't, that's fleeting.
Yeah.
So that's bullshit. You're not telling me the truth because that's an external motivating factor.
Yeah.
There's something inside of you in which you just woke up and you were not happy.
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe, we inspired you, but that's just a spark because we weren't there holding your hand every day. Sure as shit wasn't, right? And I mean, I would be there if you called, you know that.
Absolutely.
But my thing is you were like, look, I like what you guys did. We gave you a simple construct, 30, 30 for 30, told you some of the do's and don'ts. Don't read people in for the first 30 unless they're in the program because they're going to shit on you. And put yourself first every day, put your mask on first. Jesse was one of that. And then with you, you guys both have a lot of overlapping offsets in your stories and your journeys, but you started, completely differently than his. Plus, there's a lot of differences between a single mom who's you're on panels, you're a person of influence in this industry. You have significant contribution to things that you do and what you do, and you have the ability to change a lot of other women. For us as a business, I knew that I hit a plateau professionally. I wasn't changing my future leaders like the Anthonys and the Jessies. And it's like if I'm a teacher and they're all failing, I can't assume that they're stupid. I'm assuming that I'm teaching wrong and I needed a better teacher. So I went and I found someone whose profession is the development of talent. And I hired her and said, I don't need you to be in operations. I don't need a COO out of you. You're a true chief of staff. She coached and mentored and helped develop me for 6-9 months before she came over. So I knew what she can do for people. And she was one of the factors. There's no silver bullet. I mean, Carly is one of the factors that helped me, but I give her credit too, just like I do Dakota. I mean, Dakota gave me he has an ability to help shape the constitution of people too. And that's a gift that these people have. So I went to my team and said, hey, I want to bring on someone. And then that doesn't make any sense. If you're going to add to the SG&A, you better have some more COGS or we have revenue that aligns to this. And I was like, you don't get it. If I bring this person on and she can improve our team by 10%, that I can measure that in millions.
Yeah.
And that pays for herself. If she could help us elevate and drive efficiency, operational excellence into what I do by a simple improvement of 10% of revenue, then that she pays for herself multiple times over. So I can't afford not to do it is what I told them. And I said, by the way, have you guys noticed a difference in me? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, where do you think these things come from? So then we started building this thing. And I said, the industry, I love what AI is going to do for this industry. Like my next podcast will be exclusively focused on nothing but AI because it's fascinating to see what the changes will be for you and I in this industry because we've seen so many massive changes in the industry already. The only thing that hasn't changed is us humans, how we fix ourselves, right? And now I'm looking at all this stuff and the advancement of technology is actually, think about all the tools you're wearing right now that give you more insight to your own health than you've ever had before. That's innovation, and innovation's changing the way that we can control and improve our own health. That's going to be profoundly different when AI is more widely adopted. And at the same time, we happen to sit in a vertical of industry that is at the forefront of building the sky or the home for that AI. And we can't do it unless we're healthy enough. So we rely on the AI and the tools that we use of technology to help us become stronger and healthier so that our industry could evolve and we could deploy more of this capacity to support the growth of AI. So I started working on this myself, knowing that if you look at all 5 phases of the data center lifecycle, I sit at 3 of the middle ones, which I think are the tip of the spear in terms of where the largest volume and velocity of change is coming from the industry. And that's just labor. Yep. So everything ties back to labor, which means if I want to have if I wanted a better machine, I would invest in the parts and the tools to make the machine stronger. The primary line of business I use to generate revenue is a human being. So if I could take that human and I could invest into that human like I would my vehicle or my machines, then I can get a higher level of output and productivity from that. And what I realize is, as good of an idea this may sound, there's not a lot of other companies that are going to slow down the momentum of growth that they have today to improve their labor.
But they should, right?
But what if they can't? That's okay. What if we create an incubator model that captures
someone
them?
has to, right?
Well, all you're going to do is pass trash back and forth. You're going to have fatigue trash that are going to go work for a higher dollar, but not for a higher satisfaction or a greater fulfillment level in what they do. So for us, like I was doing this to get myself capable of leading my team at a micro level. And then I'm like, all we're trying to do is create a culture. Like I was talking to one of your friends, Mike, the other day, right?
Yep.
And good dude, served in the Army, and that guy's he'll get on the program and be one of us here just a little bit. He'll be someone that inspires a ton of people one day. But until then, he and I were talking about shit. And one of the commonalities that we had in the military was when you're in the military, there are things that you do that sucks. You know, it's a great place to be from and a shitty place to be sometimes. And you don't know how good you have it. So there's things, he and I were talking about it, there's things that we both got out for thinking like, that's a good enough reason to get out. And then we got out and we're like, fuck, I want to get back in. And what I really missed was that culture that the military had to offer. I didn't miss how much they paid me or how many, drills I had and how hard I worked, but I missed that culture of the military is all I missed. And I spent my whole life trying to refine that, or not refine it, but find that again or rediscover that in my own journey until one day I realized I'm going to have to create that myself. And I'm creating that in our own culture right now, which is a subculture like what I had in the military. And then I'm like, why can't we, since military veterans represent a fairly strong percentage of this industry now, why can't we, since we know what this culture looks like and we know the benefits and the values that it creates, why wouldn't we just continue to adopt that and try to push it throughout so it permeates throughout the entire industry? Well, to do that, I need friends and partners of industry that are going to buy in on the same program as us, right? Yeah. But everyone buys in for their own reason, right? Your reason and your purpose, which is yet to be told because you're a slow drip and you're not going to tell.
Yeah, slow.
It's okay though, but but you have something and you keep that very powerful to yourself and it's very close to yourself. But that machine is like the reactor for you. You're the only person that never needed affirmation. You only, when I didn't hear from you unless you were like, more, dump me more. Does that make sense? So there's something powerful inside of you that drives you. Only maybe that's the mother inside of you or the woman inside of you. But that next part that you're going on, I hope that you continue to come on this podcast and share that journey.
Absolutely.
We're not bringing this one home yet, but this is a journey.
The next one's going to be tough.
All right, well, we'll bring tissues.
Yeah, we'll bring tissues.
But think about it. How many people will you help unstuck? Because you're unsticking yourself right now, right? And like, the more that you grow healthier and stronger, do you not think that doesn't have an output on your ability to be a professional?
100% it does. I mean, that was the first thing that, people noticed was the professional part, changes, in myself. One of our VPs, mentioned it to me, when we were in Portugal. And, I was thinking, I was like, and I created this, right? Like Yondr didn't come to me and say, hey, Jen, like, you need to step up your game, right? It was, I said, I'm not the best, version of myself.
You were unhappy with what you were.
I wasn't happy. And so I was like, I'm going to, create this, myself. But what if companies did invest? Kind of like exactly what you're doing. Like, what if companies did do that? Like, if you put it to numbers, I'm sure the turnover's different.
I just put the number to Carly. If Carly, and low hanging fruit is 10% of optimization. That should be just like the shitty bad habits that we leave the toilet seat up type of shit at work. And I was like, that's millions of dollars. If and whatever I pay her, she will change that by just a little bit of efficiency. Think about what you're doing at an individual level yourself and the output that you're able to operate at now as a professional.
Absolutely. Right. And, and you created that, right? Like you recognize that you and your company needed that, right? Like, and I think that just speaks to leadership, right? Like if all leaders could take that, mirror look and say like, what can I do to inspire my team or, better my team? I think those changes, would happen. And I think people would do better as a whole, right?
Well, I think that's maybe why we're having this podcast too. It's one, so that you can inspire like those that Jesse can't reach with his story. And we're doing this in we're all in. And what I mean by that is there's no guarantees. And 3 months from now, this is the fucking silly season. The holiday season is a really horrible season of the year. Upticks in, depression and suicide, people hurting themselves. This is the silly season. There's a lot of emotional range that takes place and anything can happen. You could go back home, something bad happens, you're triggered, boom, and next thing you know, we're back here and we're back in 30 for 30, which is the first stage, right? And that allows, that's okay. If that happens, that's life. We're going to talk about that too. And we're not going to abandon you. We're going to be in your corner the whole way because some people are going to be inspired. Some people are going to be reluctant to try for fear of failure. And we're going to say like, look, that's part of life. You just got to keep failing until you keep on growing. Right. But you have to also believe in yourself, because you didn't have any affirmation. We were giving you zero validation. We were just giving you a little bit of guidance and structure and making ourselves available. You knew that we were here. If you needed anything, there's people beyond just Kirk, right, that could help you. And I think you see that there's a whole army of people now that I go trucking with that are always in support and in service of this one thing.
Absolutely amazing people, right? And I think one of the things you did text me was, was it something makes comeback, like setbacks allow for comebacks. And I was like, it's really good. And like, I actually used that, one time talking to one of my buddies, he's like, well, I'm just going to, fail. I'm like, hey, your setbacks just mean there's comebacks, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so like, I've used your lines a lot. Like,
well, shit.
Don't worry, I quote you, but I
that's fine. I don't need the quotes.
But like,
that's the whole goal is right? to help you go inspire others. Not everybody has the same positive, infectious attitude or the courage. I mean, like, Jen, you're one of the first women that you come on this podcast. You trust me enough to know that I'm not going to, and the thing is there's people that are going to relate to you way better than they can relate to a Jesse or a me, right? And there's a lot of women, I think, out here that this is the silly season and they're fucking wondering themselves like, what makes me happy? How do I make myself happy? How can I be with someone else to make me happy? Like, is that their jobs to make each other happy? I mean, there's so many things that go into that, but I'm like, now you have to dig into your emotional side, and that takes a lot of pick and axe work, and people don't like it. This is a hard time of the season to do it. Yeah. But like, I have a lot of respect for anybody that's going to war with each other and with themselves. I mean, and then especially those that are doing it on camera with us, there's no guarantees. No. Like, we're not doing this whole series and then being like, all right, she came out and she is, amazing. Let's put a cape on her and now we could put it on the radio and let people talk about it. Like, hey, listen, it wasn't easy. Was there things that were hard on the physical side of it?
I think it was just the discipline of like changing my routines in the morning.
It was harder for you as it got colder too, because
absolutely. Like in the beginning, I was taking the dogs out and like they loved it. I was loving it. Got some weird looks from neighbors. Like out there with my flashlight and dogs. So but once it got cold, right, I was like, okay, inside. So like now the dogs lay in my gym with me while I'm on my treadmill, right. So I am looking forward to getting back outside and doing it. But
that's I think people don't realize, that's just 30 for 30. I'm like, you see how hard it is to make sure that you went to bed right, because your day starts the night before, right? Yep. So make sure you have something to eat when you're done, because your body's not going to respond the same, because it demands something different. Yeah. Like, you're not going to be, if you're taking and you're running your engine from 0 to now you added, 30 for 30. So that's an hour. That's how many hours of walking, right? And that means that you're burning that many more calories, and the body is a machine and it's going to want things. Normally it's going to want something healthier.
Absolutely.
Like, did that change your life too? Like walking?
Absolutely did. So change the walking, right? And like now my watch tells me all the time, like, oh, you've increased this, but like it's made me happier. It's made me, like I went out to the barn with my daughter and I was able to like help her with her horse by like literally running, around the arena with her. Like, had I not been doing 30, like, it would have been like half a loop, around the arena with her, but like it's created the, ability to, do more athletic things with my kids. It's inspired that, teaching my son even, to cook, which I think is really big, like, cause he knows I hate cooking, but like, I think one of the things I asked you was like, well, what do I change with my diet? And I think that was like the first 10 days. And you're like, well, it was just eat what your body tells you. So like now I look at a menu, like instead of saying like, what's going to taste really good? I look, I'm like, okay, well, what do I want? Like, what do I feel?
What will make my body feel better?
Yeah. And like, that has really helped. The choices, are much easier to make, of what I'm, kind of fueling myself with. And like, the kid to be like, let's eat something like this. And I'm like, no. Like, this is our fuel. Like, this is what we have to put in, to our body.
There's the 80-20 rule, right? I mean, 20% of the time you're going to have a birthday and you're going to eat that pie or whatever. But yeah, the most part is like, once you get to our age, I'm way older than you, but I'm like, I love the predictability of what I could be one day over the next, knowing that I'm making progress. Like someone asked me what my strategy was the other day for what we're trying to do as a business. I go, it's simple. We don't have something like that. What I do want to be is 1% better tomorrow than I was today. And I just want to be around great people. And I've learned that if I separate everybody else from those two things, then good things just continuously happen for us as we evolve. We get to help my team, I mean, people like you are clients. I mean, Yondr is, you have a lot of powerhouses from this industry that work at a group like that, right? And they're doing a lot of stuff around the world. So we get to work with partners, we get to work with customers, as well as my own team. And we're seeing those impacts. I think Jesse's going to impact and inspire a lot of people. I think your story, as it continues to unfold, is going to inspire a lot of people. And hopefully it does draw more of an engagement for like DCAC next year. 1/3 of the entire conference, which will be 2 days next year, modified days. They're not going to be full blown days. There's going to be structure for the stuff, but there's a lot of health. I mean, 1/3 of it will be to focus on the human, on how do we get more out of, like, we know what we can do from an industry and from technology and design and supply chain and all that. You know, the two biggest focuses this year were on space and power, right? Like land, space, and raw volumes of power. And then we had some human elements into it. But I mean, I think that we got a lot of feedback that people wanted to go there and learn more about something that would inspire them and something that would give them more. And because of that, we're also adding another day, which we've never done, you know, but it'll be dedicated for 1/3 of that time is all dedicated to healthy, something healthy, not just like, hey, this is what you eat and this is what you work out with, but like, what are you doing for yourself on the mom side? You know, like,
these are such hard questions when you ask these. But yeah, they're true, right?
But you're going to have to work on that shit, because guess who's going to lead some of those panels next year at DCAC? You and the Carlys and the Kendras and whoever else, the Salmis or whoever the world, where we need more. There's more powerful women in this industry that operate in a silo because they don't have a collective yet. And hopefully they're listening to this and they go like, Jen and Carly are the collective. Like, go to you. People in this industry may not know Carly yet because she is an engine under the hood. But people definitely know you, right? And I think that you guys should be able to collect something to where you're able to do things. Remember last night we were talking about the difference and I was like, yeah, you girls should do something special for girls. And you're like, no, I don't agree. And I'm like, that's bullshit. Because there are things that you older ladies should be.
I like that I'm now an older lady. Thanks, Kirk.
Well, I mean, like,
I know what you mean. I'm just kidding.
Like, you ladies, like, you're more dangerous because you guys have seen enough shit where you know exactly what you're going to be tolerant of, right? And I'm like, but there's a lot of women that are getting in this industry for the first time and they don't even know where the ladies' room's at, right? Someone's got to coach and mentor them and guide them along. And really, it's about building. I said, you don't need a women's thing for the sake of teaching them something that men can learn at the same time. But, you know, men go on shit tons of hunting trips. I go on them all the time. Not a lot of women on those hunting trips.
Never been invited on a hunting trip.
Well, look, there will be changes to those types of things. We will make those types of changes. But the reality is we have to feel safe that we're going with women that won't just, like, there are a lot of weak and insecure women too in this industry that you can't be alone with in a room, because if you are, then you're vulnerable to they say anything about you. And that's a sad thing. So we could fix those things. I think there's a lot of trends that are moving better into a healthier, you know, dynamic with that stuff. But I do believe that what you women need to do is learn how to teach others how to build a stronger network for women, healthier networks for women. Not so you could learn something at AI that, you know, but like there's a way that women network that are different than the way that men network. Like there's going to be, guess what? There's yoga retreats in this industry. I've never been invited on a single one of them.
Me neither.
Oh, bullshit.
No.
Well, listen.
But anyway.
But you could get invited.
But I could get invited. It would seem more acceptable, right? Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I'm not saying we should just mingle all the three, but why couldn't you have more of all of them? And I think that there's things about women building their networks, but while you're building those networks, you should be talking to them about the same things that you're learning that made you Gen 2.0, right? Because you're in this transformation. And I mean, you've been on it for a few months from now. Can you imagine where you're going to be in 1 year from now? All right, imagine you'll have already spoken to DCAC and you'll probably have some sort of thing with all these other ladies that talk about how they're redefining themselves by starting off by putting their mask on first at home, by not telling anybody as they go through these transformations, so no momentum is lost, and they have a construct to start from, and they could know that, like, all I need to do is. Someone asked me, they're like, how did you do it? I'm like, I just walked 30 minutes out, 30 minutes back for 30 days and I didn't drink. Except for a little wine every now and then, but I don't count that. That's just grape juice. Yeah. But, you know, there's a little bit of everything that you're going to have to spin up to, and then you're going to have to tell them the things that Daisy changed it for you. Do you think that you are beginning to lay out that construct?
I think so. And actually, when you brought that up last night, because I was like, no, Kirk, like, we don't segregate the men and the women, right? And like, I was kind of like, never want to like limit it. But when you actually started kind of discussing it further, I was like, shit, you know, like he is right?
Can
like,
you imagine
this is not a segregation of men and women. This is a, hey, like, let's
what would your
other.
career, not that you, I mean, you have a great career. You should be very proud. You've earned the respect of a lot of people. Can you imagine if there was a Jen 2.0 that you met in your first year getting into this industry?
Would have been amazing.
Okay, so now you get to do that for this industry. Now you, in the pursuit of making yourself a healthier person, is a byproduct of that will make this industry better, because now you're going to engage at a completely different altitude and airspeed, and you're going to be mentoring women, the future gens, and that's what advances this industry. Now do you see how we tie it all back?
And it's absolutely, and like when you made that point, you know, like last night, I was like, shit, I hate when Kirk is right, but like he's right on this one.
And I'm rarely right on those types of things too.
Especially with all the women there, like, you know, and we all kind of agreed then with you. Like, we're like, you know, like, you're right. Like, we need more of these. And like, that's one, I told you I was going to fight the microphone today.
You're doing great.
But like, had we had these things, right? Like, it would have been different. Like, and I, you know, worked on trying to get some mentoring, you know, in different orgs that I've been in, you know, for women, right? And not that, and even saying that it has to be women mentoring women. Like, some of my best mentors are men, but would they have understood, you know, some of the things that I've gone through? No, like, you know,
definitely
if I told them and like, they'd be like, that does not happen. Like, you know, like, no, this shit happens, you know, but like, I think women would be able to understand that better, right? You know, because maybe they've gone through it too, you know? And so I think that is helpful.
I didn't mean to say older. I meant old ladies. So the old ladies are going to block and tackle.
You just circled back to that like 20 minutes ago.
But that's what, like, you see the wisdom that you have to offer, and how many people will that benefit? And there are women in this industry that been in it for a few years, and they still don't know where to go to be, you know, to feel kind of safe and what you work on. So I think that as we approach the fifth industrial revolution, I see a lot of things growing healthier. And we're going to see that more on our industry, because we are seeing the byproduct of society's health from our industry. Even the guy that, you know, this podcast studio gets to see every podcast. And I always ask for the patterns. Like, what are you seeing? You see anything cool? You see any cool podcasts? And he's like, what we're seeing is this, you know, post-COVID, there was a huge series of podcasts, he said just now, on mental health. People were realizing, like, we're not healthy upstairs in our mind, and we can't rely on the government or some other, you know, federal jurisdiction or state jurisdiction to step in and make us healthy. We're going to have to start moderating ourselves and understanding the shit that we see. You know, we start looking for the propaganda and how we see commercials, and you know, and then he said now he's seeing this bigger shift. He even said, I'm like, hey man, how's it going? He's like, I'm on my journey. And I was like, cool. Everybody's starting a journey, because people, I think, went through a mental thing where they're like, man, I'm just broken down and fatigued and funk, and now I want to get my body right. I mean, you and Jesse and I, we're all the same, right? We're on the same journey, just different stages of it. And he's just coming back from the gym, and I've known him for a bit, right? And he's saying that a lot of these podcasts now are where people are getting back into their physical fitness. So it's positive. Like you needed to have some shitty ass, you know, president before you could have a Lincoln. You have to have bad before you could have good sometimes. And I think that we're coming out of it. And I think that what we're going to come out of it with is AI may not be as creepy as we thought, because there's not going to be enough power to enable AI to really go. And part two is we will begin to all discover by ourselves that you can't eat cheeseburgers every day, and you can't consume unlimited, you know, technology every day either. They both should sound equally as stupid to you. And we begin to moderate ourselves back to an 80-20 rule and say, okay, we don't need somebody else to tell us that we can't eat cheeseburgers every day, but on Friday nights I'm eating my cheeseburger. But that's the 80-20, right? And I think that we're going to find a healthier balance, more symbiotic relationship with technology in that fifth. I think that's what it's all about. But I think us right here trying to talk about how we're amateurs, trying to help other amateurs, learn how to level up. I mean, we should be using this platform for you who can relate to a lot of people in this space. There's a lot of badass single moms that are, you know, married, but still are, you know, hardcore professionals and are trying to balance being moms and being, you know, a career driven woman, which is okay. And And look, everybody can relate to something that you just said over the course of things that you've been doing and saying. It's just, what would be the messages that you'd have for them right now?
Probably just honestly to dig in and take, a hard look at, depending, what kind of lifestyle. Like, are you being a good mom? Are you being a good wife? Are you being a good daughter? Are you being a good friend? Are you being a good woman? And what is, I think like that really hit me hard yesterday. Like, I probably would have run the other way had you asked me that on day one, right? Like, that probably would have been too much, for me to be like, shit, I'm not ready, yet. So I think that, telling these women, right? Like, you can always make a change, right? Like, it doesn't have to be a 180, but it's that, daily 1% better, than the day before. Having, realistic expectations of, what you can do, right? Like when you said, only 30 minutes for, 30 for 30, I was like, I freaking got that. Like, let me do more. Like, give me some like hard ass thing. Let me just, sink or swim on this. And you didn't, like, right? You were like, this is.
Yeah, wait till you're on day 27 and you have to travel and there's so many things going on. Yeah. Like, holy shit. That's hard. That's enough pressure and stress just to maintain that consistency.
Absolutely. So I would just tell them, like, just give yourself grace, right? Like, and it's no time like the present, right? Like, you don't need to wait for January 1st, right? Like, I didn't. Like, I knew I wanted something different and I was going to go after it. Like, my dad used to say, like, Jen always gets what she wants. Like, and it wasn't because it was handed to me. It was because when I saw something, like, I was going to do it and I was going to get it one way or another. Like, I was going to find, a way to do it. Tell me no, I'll just go a different way, and, nice. So like, I think that, not even just women on that one, but like all people, right? Like, no is not an answer, right? Like, just find another way to get, to your destination, like, obviously no, like, has its, places, right? But like, don't let other people stop you, right? Like, go after it, keep it to yourself, because I think that was the best advice. Before, I would have been like, well, people will hold me accountable. They don't fucking care, right? Like, they don't care where, you want to be or where you don't want to be. And so, like, keeping that to myself, talk to you about it. My JV partner, knew a little bit, of what I was doing, because he'd call me every morning. I'd be out walking. So,
yeah,
but I wasn't out there, advertising it. Someone asked me, like, what's going on, kind of like when Nis asked, what's in the coffee. I was like, it's a little Overwatch in the coffee, apparently.
It is our coffee.
I know.
We have great coffee too. It
is really good, by the way.
I'm glad.
but yeah.
So in that, you were pretty driven. We just gave you a little bit of structure into some of the things that we were doing. We talked about like the external motivation, and the reason why I said do it for 30 days is because some people don't realize how hard it is to do one thing 30 days consecutively. And when you're on day 26 and 27, you realize how hard it was to get there. It's a whole nother appreciation. But what we're really trying to do is just establish discipline. Yeah. Because when the external motivation's gone, which is massively fleeting.
What you told me, you're like, this is only going to last for this week and better kick it off. So
that's 100%. I'm like, look, when people get around us, sometimes they do get all excited, but then when they're not around us, they're not excited anymore. And I'm like, well, maybe while you're excited, you could use that opportunity to define what discipline and structure looks like. So that way, when that's gone, you can be addicted to the wins that you have every day by just executing upon your checklist. You're a checklist lady, right? Yep. So, and I was like, let me give you a checklist then. Do this. And what why don't you give me like a couple up and a couple down? Like, what were some of the things that you learned that you didn't anticipate you were even going to learn from this? Maybe unexpected, pleasant things? Was there anything that you were like, hey man, this is a good byproduct?
I actually really got addicted to that time to myself, when I was doing that, 30 by 30, right? And so like now I use that as like my time, right? Like, I didn't really have a my time before. It was probably like when I woke up in the morning and drank some coffee. But now it's like I wake up, have the coffee, and then I go do something, right? And I listen to the books, and I've never been really big into reading. And I was telling Carly this morning, it's like, I'm pretty sure that in the past 2 months, I've read more books than in my entire life combined.
Good.
And, so I was like telling her to send me some as well. And I'm like, and I've learned so much through that. Some of them were hard lessons where I like reflected on myself and like, holy crap, like I do that. Like I shouldn't do that. Right. So they were kind of, able to help me like really internalize or, look introspectively of like who I am on those aspects from the books. Some of the things that I found, I didn't like was sometimes on these walks, if I wasn't listening to a book, of being alone with my thoughts and being like, where are these going? So learning that, may have to listen to this, like my own, mind, my own thoughts, and not be afraid of them. Maybe just, okay, acknowledge it. And then, I put it, aside. But I think that, having that time was something that I really needed, and enjoyed.
I would say, it's really amazing. We were talking about something the other day because I was telling you how I'm trying to get into, and it almost sounds stupid saying this out loud. I may have to have him edit this out because I feel like an idiot just talking about it. And I shouldn't. I started meditating.
Yeah.
And I'm in an app-led meditation program, and it's fantastic. And when I get to the end of it, I'll announce what it was maybe or something. But it's exactly what you needed if you're a caveman like me, like straight up Neanderthal trying to figure out like, I have ADHD, and sitting down for 2 minutes and trying to focus on your breathing or any of those things, like not today, but every day it adds like 30 seconds to it. And what I learned was the ability to control your thoughts and to stay focused on a thought. That's a fucking superpower.
Yes.
If you can do that, then you're better than 99.999% of the world, right? So, IQ doesn't matter at that point if you have that discipline and the ability to just lock in and control thought. So you asked me like, hey, where are you at in your journey? I'm like, I'm in an infancy of meditation, and I'm trying to learn how to control my thoughts better so that I'm more intentional. So I don't interrupt you on these podcasts as much, right? So like I listen to these podcasts and I'm like, God dang it, can you just shut up and let them talk? I probably will say the same thing after this one, but like I am trying to have more thought control and be more intentional and deliberate in how I think about those things. So I don't react to anything. I'm more just responding in which way my emotional range requires. But I think for you, like you were asking me something, I'm like, look, you've changed a lot, don't you feel?
Yeah. 100%.
Are you happy with yourself?
I am happy with the improvements. Do I think I'll ever probably be like 100% happy with myself? No, because I'm always going to want that, progression. But as of today, I am absolutely thrilled with.
You can appreciate, you can live in the moment and enjoy the present and be proud of who you are. But again, like none of us should be happy tomorrow if we're the same man that we were today, right? So I could get that never ending because there is no destination. This is just a journey and we're all just trying to level up, right? But like you have to enjoy the journey. You have to enjoy the process, which is hard to do too, right? Because you're going to get into the hardest, darkest, murkiest part that is the hardest, but it's the most worth it.
Yeah.
Right? Because then you're going to and you never really leave that journey part of either, but you're going to get into that. Like right now, you get to take your flashlight and run into a room every now and then that's dark and shine that light a little bit and see some shit. Now you're going to start walking into a room and turn the light on and fixing it all, right? And that's the part that people have to roll up their sleeves on. And that's a harder part. A lot of people are like, could we do that later?
Yeah.
But that's where you're like, hey, and for someone who's been like this, more, I want to keep going. Now I'm like, cool. Now you get to go to work on that shit.
Yeah. I may be a little more hesitant on like, oh, Kirk, that's not a cool one.
But it's going to suck.
But it will suck. But it will be.
Not as much as walking 10 miles with Carly at her pace. But
I actually think I would prefer that.
It's true. It's true. Me too. But those are the next stages for you.
Yeah.
And that's, again, self-led. I told you what I would do. Yeah. I told you what I've done, and that's for you to decide how you want to go create some structure and framework around you. But you can manifest your own destiny. Like you're an agent of your own reality. You have the ability to go figure out how you want to bring this idea to fruition. And again, you're someone that you just needed to be pointed in the right direction, so head that way. Right. So now knowing that, like I'm going to expect more phone calls from you, I think, on this one, or if Carly or Salmi and the rest of them, but
have you all on listen to me cry about my emotions.
It's hard, man. I was in the fetal position a few times.
Yeah, like I just remember like even just driving over here, like we were talking about, like, this is going to be ugly. This is going to be some phone calls. Like because I didn't call you before of, like, Kirk, I don't know what to do. Like, it was give me another book. Give me direction on this. This one I may actually call you. May like regret that. Like, I don't know.
Well, I could always block your call, but
you totally could. You could have it forwarded to like Carly or Salmi.
No, shut up. We're all in your corner.
I know.
Because we're all in this together, right? And like, not everybody buys in. Some people are just, they don't know why they're miserable. They're stuck somewhere. Typically they are like, I need to go get another job, right? And they don't need another job. I mean, I was that guy, right? I hated the environment that I'd be in. Every few years, I'd go find another one until I realized I'm going to have to create that culture myself, right? Yep. And I believe that what we had in the military that we loved the most, we could recreate again as civilians. And I'm trying to help lead that with the help of a lot of other people in the collective that are helping pull together for it. But I think it's really important that we highlight the areas in which we could improve individually and how we could help others along the way, right? Like, your journey inspired me. I mean, like, here I am going through the muck and the blood and the beer of my journey as I'm battling, emotional shit and spiritual shit. And you're like this super freaking excited kid with a new toy, it seems like, because now you realize the only operating system you need to upgrade is your own, yep. Right? And you're playing with this toy all day. And now you're feeling like, now this part, like, this is when the game's like that, you don't get unlimited lives. Now these are real things, and you're going to have to go visit some dark shit, and you're going to have to understand how to deal with those scars and the calluses that come with it. And yep. then the beauty is you ride through that other side of the storm, you don't have storms anymore, or whatever was once a storm is now just some rainfall, right? It's shit that doesn't bother you, because it's like when you go to the gym, you used to touch 5-pound weights, 10-pound weights, used to be heavy. Now you could throw them around all day right now because you got stronger. It's not because the weight changed, right? You're just going to keep plugging along. But I promise you, like, no matter how smart you are and capable you are, you're not as smart and as capable of all of us together. If we could create these cultures and these side pockets where people could feed off each other, then I think that we will eventually, at the end of the day, why does this conversation exist on a Data Center Revolution podcast? It's because if you are at 100%, you'll make that much more of a difference, not only on what you do for your business, which it's financially accretive, it impacts the bottom line. Yes. But you'll also have a stronger influence over those you work with that could have a higher impact on the output and productivity of the business as a whole. It could also help that downstream with your partners and your customers. And like, that's just on that one dimension of you as a professional. That's like, that yields that much improvement in your life just on the professional basis, let alone what it does as a mother and that as the woman, right? And you can see that, like, everyone wants to be better. And then once I showed you what the real fucking mess was behind the green curtain, you're like, damn, this is a lot more to do. And I'm like, that's right. You were so excited in phase one. And that's why you should be. Yeah. And that's why it's designed to be addictive, and for you to be like, I'm just going to be feeding off of one victory, and, changing my soul every day is going to be addictive until you get to the part where you're like, okay, the momentum slows down, even on the physical side. Yeah. Like, you can't, some of these people, like Jesse started off by losing like 20-30 pounds in the first couple of weeks. And now he's on an average of 4 pounds a week. And I don't think he mind at all that I say that shit, but he knew he's not emotionally suffering or disappointed from that. He goes, look, you coming out of the gates, it's going to be flying off, but then you're going to get to the point where it's going to be harder to chip away at that shit. And then some people, they give up because they don't see the instant reward. And for you, remember, I was like, you're going to have to start playing the long game.
Yes. And like, I'm a person of, I need immediate gratification. Like, I feed off of that. And like, when we were talking about it, you were like, Jen, like, don't expect immediate results. And like, we even talked, I'm like, I don't get on a scale. Like, I can't anymore. Like, there's just no good comes out of that. So, one of the things that I recognize is I could fit into a pair of pants that I haven't been able to wear in like 5 years. Right.
Oh,
and I was like, that's awesome. That's the result.
Scale.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, okay, I don't have to have immediate, results of things like that, right? I don't have to see the scale. I don't have to see, all of this. And what I'm enjoying most is actually the journey. I don't have a set goal in sight. And this may be the first time, like, I don't have like, okay, by this date, I want to do this. Like, I am just on this path of becoming a better person, better woman, better mom, better employee, and that's what I'm focused on, you know, not a end result, because I don't think there is an end result. It's enjoy the process, you know, not the
but look, I'll tell you what I learned. You're a hot mess.
I'm
I'm totally joking. You know I'm joking.
But I am.
No, you're
okay. Go on.
If that's the case, then take a number. If you're a mess, then what am I, right? But you are an inspiration, is what you are, right? And like, I think that this story, I think it's probably already inspiring your kids. It's got to be inspiring some of the people you get to work with. What I asked you to do is, I'm like, look, you're not, you know, I get the chance to talk to a lot of amazing people in this space. I think this podcast has helped me do it. The conference that we run helps, but I get to be in orbit with a lot of cool people. Yeah. And not everyone wants to share their story in this journey, but I was like, look, your desire to be better when I was in a hard part myself reminded me that there's other people behind me, and I got to continue to plow through and try to find a path, right? Yeah. So me feeding you shit meant that I had to eat twice as many books myself so I can refine enough down to be worthy of your shit, right? So like, we're all in this together. You have no idea the way that you're impacting people around you just by doing what you're doing, and how it's addicting and infectious, right? Like, I don't know what it is. You said, you know, Carly or me or whoever you were around at that time, it inspired you. But if I could inspire people with my limitations, imagine what you're going to be able to do, right? So think about all the stuff that you're doing upstream and downstream from you that will bring out more or better in people. And I think a lot of people that are listening to this that can relate to you, they're going to find those things. What would be the, what would be the last, if you had any advice for them just to get started, you know, what would you do? And can they come to you?
They can absolutely come to me. I mean, I'm probably going to have to go to you.
That's fine.
And then ask you.
That's fine.
But which I've already done, right? Like, sure. You know, my one friend, I was like, you know, he saw the difference. And I said, I think you should contact Kirk as well. So I would say, absolutely, they can contact me. You know, look me up on LinkedIn. More than, you know, happy to talk to anyone, you know, about the journey, even, you know, offline. But I would say, make the commitment to yourself, not to anyone else. Make the commitment to yourself. And once you're in that place that you know, are ready for that, then jump in. Like,
yeah, some people won't know if they're ready. Like, I always tell people, I'm like, if you're not miserable, you're not ready.
Yeah.
Like, if you're just not sick of the repeat of tomorrow, then you're not ready. But if you are sick of that shit and you want to reinvent yourself, like, the reason why I was like, could we do your podcast right around now? Yeah. Because, you know, 30 for 30 is a program that we're going to be rolling out with in a big way in the next few weeks. But I do think that your story and the way that it changed you and it started you, it's just, look, that's not a destination. That's just the first step of a stepping stone to get your journey going. I always tell people to start there, because if they can do that, then they're committed. And if they're not, then they don't get any of my time anyway. My team gets my time. But if you do 30 for 30, I think there's enough of us on my team that, have you not noticed that all of us would reach our hand down, whether you're in our tribe or not, right?
Yep.
And I think that if we continue to do this, it'll help other people. And the reason why it's a benefit to do this is because all we want is every business wants to see a higher level of output and productivity from their teams. If we can help get these people healthy, we're going to be able to give them that, right? So it's something that's accretive. It's financially, health-wise. It's something that we ought to be doing. Is there any other stories that you want to share with people? It could be surprises, things that you didn't ever expect, things that were scary for you, maybe that you really struggled with, or the things that you're scary about going into the next one we do.
I think I'm definitely, I don't think the beginning, you know, scared me at all. You know, I was super excited, knew I could do 30 for 30, you know, making time, you know, while on planes, you know, is definitely difficult. But I think, you know, the next set is probably going to be the scariest, because there's not a checklist for me to go through, you know, and like, I'll probably still call you like, hey, Kirk, like, what's my next step? Sure. You know, as we go through the emotional part here, and you'll be like, oh, that's abstract. You don't have a checklist on this one. And that I think will be the hardest, because it's not going to be easy. Like, much rather go probably like run a 5K than, you know, probably deal with whatever I've packaged up. And I think that's basically what I've done, right? Like, shit that's hard emotionally, I box it up in pretty little bow, and it is like in the closet, you know, like behind locked doors. And, you know,
taking time bomb for whoever, right?
Yeah, God bless whoever ends up opening that damn door.
But that's why we have to unpack,
me, right? Like,
well, no, it'll hopefully, if that doesn't get resolved by you, then that'll be a time bomb that one of your kids will inherit and open up one day, and they're gonna have to deal with that drama too. So like, I look at everything that we do now as, if we don't tackle the generational drama or the generational curses, then we're just being selfish and passing that shit on to our kids to have to deal with right now. And nobody, I don't know anybody that isn't battling something right now. I don't know anybody that isn't struggling for something right now. Everybody has an insecurity and a blind spot right now, and people just don't know where to start. I'm like, we're just amateurs trying to help change the world here little bit by little. And I think your story will be something that we're, man, you started with some piss and vinegar, right? And then you wouldn't give us the satisfaction of knowing that you should have went upstairs and got your socks for the walk.
Totally should have done that.
But I knew that you were suffering and that you didn't crack, and that was respect, because I was like, there's no chance that she wasn't miserable.
So horrible.
Because we were walking at a fast pace. I was picking up gravel. You had like the wrong shoes. We had
wrong shoes, like no socks. There was the raccoon, like you all talk about snakes in the water. And I'm like, oh my God. Like
you're halfway into this walk. Yeah, I don't know why I want to do this.
Why? Like, yeah.
But I think that you'll be leading those walks too. And I think that what will come out of this, hopefully, was, we have 7x24 chapters in your market. We have, DCDs, and we have all these cool things. That's great. There should be an element of PT or health or fitness. Like,
absolutely.
I have a compound. My team comes and visits all the time. We PT together every morning when they're together. If they're there, they're PTing with us, right?
That's amazing.
But I think that we could create a more healthy element. Maybe if those members of whatever, I encourage them to go get a part of that. But those are things that it's on us. Now that you I told you, like, look, we'll help everybody and anybody we can, whatever's working for us. If they want to get in on that, we'll give it to them too. But I'll tell you, like, the soup's not done cooking. We're still working on ourselves. We have a long way to go. But if you reach to a certain level, the only requirement is you have to reach back.
Yes.
Remember?
Absolutely.
Like, you got to pull someone else up with you every time.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people here I think we could help, don't you?
100%. I mean, when I was in Portugal, the first morning, we were out there, I pulled, a couple of the young ladies with me, and I'm like, hey, like, Maria, Jane, let's go. Like, we're going to go for a walk. And it was wonderful, right? Like, and that probably scared a few people, right? Like, here's these like hardcore 3 women, like, they didn't want to mess with us next day, that morning when we walked in.
Hashtag not sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And it was great, right? Like, we talked about some of the books, they had seen a difference, because I work, very closely with them. And so they were, kind of picking my brain, and I was picking theirs, right? Like,
And that's funny how it feeds itself.
Yeah.
I think that it just takes that first part, so I think if you could continue to create that little orbit everywhere you're going, you'll find that you'll kind of create these little data center fight clubs wherever we go. And that, like, I'm flying into Virginia on the 18th, and I'll be doing some PT with one of the guys there that works for a big group, and he's like, yeah, I got a cold plunge, all these things. I'm like, I'm in. But I mean, when I'm in market, I'm typically PTing with someone in the morning. I PT with you sometimes. I'm in Virginia, right?
Yeah.
So it's a different lifestyle, but this isn't just something that benefits us individually. It benefits our families, and it benefits the people that care about us, and it benefits the people that employ us, because if we're healthier and we're stronger, then it turns out that we get a lot more accomplished than when we were unhealthy.
Yes.
So that's what ties all this back together. So if there's anything else, maybe we will bring this home. Mm-hmm. What else did I may have missed? Is there any stories you want to share that you didn't get a chance to share?
I think I probably covered all my stories. I mean, scared, I'm sure, a few people, with the energy level, but
not at all, man. This is inspiring. There's a lot of shit that you're going to go through in the next few months, but it's going to be awesome, because I'll tell you one story about, maybe I can, about that journey. I told you the banana story.
Yes.
That'll probably be a joke if I don't tell everyone this story, but like, it's capable. You are capable of putting a lot of shit behind you when you get through that other part of that journey, right? And I think that, like, when you come back on, it should be when you feel like you've reached a milestone on the other side of the emotional side, right? So, because before you could get into the spiritual side, you kind of have to tackle some of those emotional, you have to have some stability on that side first. And not that you're not, but like, you're going to, when you start addressing things that are in your past to get healthy again, it sucks.
Yeah.
But I promise, man, if you do some spring cleaning upstairs, it makes room for so much joy, and I think the best stuff that you have is still in front of you, don't you think?
Absolutely. And I know this is probably going to be my dad's favorite podcast now, because it's talked about body, mind, and spirit. I mean, for my entire life, my dad's like, you got to do body, mind, and spirit. Like, you have to put in, equal amount of time, because you're not a whole person unless you have that. And
You failed him as a daughter.
Yeah, guess what? Like, it took all of these years and Kirk telling me this. You know, he's going to be real impressed with that.
Right.
But,
no.
you know.
It all ties back to what your dad said, though, man. Your dad's a wise man. You should listen to that dude.
I at the start, you know, 40 years later.
Well, what else do you want to say before we sign off? Anything else?
Just, if anyone is interested, right, and like recognizing, you know, that they're ready to, you know, begin the journey, like, reach out to us, right? Like, to you, to me, you know, to any of us that are, you know, kind of stumbling our way through it, like, he can come stumble alongside me.
We're all doing that.
Yeah.
Like, that's the best part is like, I'm around savages, people that are.
Really are.
I'm talking about some of the ones that are 100 levels above me right now on their journey. And I'm low crawling through, you know, everything with them. And they still have the appetite and the desire to help. Right. And I think that I've played at a different level, or I've learned that lesson already. So I'm trying to make sure that what took me years to get to only takes weeks for others to get to now, because I want to do for others that what I wish I would have had when I first got in this industry, which is someone that said, hey, the parties aren't going anywhere. You don't have to worry about every conference. You're not going to, if you miss one, no one cares. And make sure you put your family first, make sure you put yourself first. And if you work more of the career and less on the social shit, you'll always have the social shit. But if you just do the social shit, it's going to really ruin your career.
Absolutely.
Right. And there's just things that I learned throughout the time. Right. So I think that people can come to you, or they could come to us, and they should come to us knowing like, we don't have it all figured out.
No.
We're still students in this stuff, and we're all on the journey together. But I mean, that's the beauty, is there's only one way to go, and that's up from here. Right.
Yeah. And like, I just really always appreciated, like, never felt like I was being judged, like, on any of that, right? Like,
I judged the shit out of you.
Okay, well, you didn't verbalize it, so I appreciated that.
No, of course there's no judgment. What am I going to judge?
But like,
I got enough
other
problems
people,
of my
like,
own.
that's, you know, I think what people worry about, like, you know, like, I'm going to stumble, I'm going to fail at some point. Like, I'm going to call you and be like, hey, Kirk, like, I kind of screwed this up, right? Like, you know, so that you'll get those phone calls at some point, right? Thank God I haven't done it yet, but like, it will happen. But I know I'm not afraid to come to you and tell you, like, I failed. And I think that is a super important aspect
part of the journey,
have, right? Like,
it's all part of the process, it's part of the journey. It's not about fucking perfect all the time.
No.
I mean, like, man, we all have bad days. And then you have to learn how to emotionally come through those bad days so that you don't let it break the stride or the momentum and all the rhythm and shit. But look, this is not the last podcast. This is the first podcast of your Human Reset part. And I really admire and respect you for allowing me to be on this journey with you. I appreciate it. And for sharing your story with others that I think it's going to inspire not just women, but there's dudes on here that are going to listen to what you're talking about and be like, what does make me happy as a woman, you know, or what makes me happy as a man, you know? I mean, there's a lot of places to start from, but that's where you have to be at emotionally first before you can really begin this journey, right?
Yeah. I mean, then that's a tough question. I don't have the answer yet. I want to have the answer, but
when you come back on, I hope you share with us what you've learned, because along the way for the next 30 days in search of that, you're going to see a steady stream of people that are like, man, there's some changes going on in you, and you know exactly what it looks like because you've already done it.
Yep, absolutely.
So I appreciate everything you've done. Thank you for being here, and thanks for sharing your story on the revolution.
Thank you, Kirk. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it.